Hi everybody. Let's work on March Slav by Peter Tchaikovsky. This is a dark, serious piece in the key of A minor, depicting the sound of the Russian army as they march into battle to help out the country of Serbia. And you can kind of see the soldiers as they're forming there. The music has a steady 4/4 march-like beat, and it features a right-hand melody supported by left-hand intervals. Let's listen and see what you think. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there it is. Now, let's take a look at some of our hand positions for the piece so that we can know where to put our hands and where to put our fingers. So the right hand uses the notes A, B, C, D, E. You see here in what we call the A minor position, and your thumb starts on A. So right away you want to find A, B, C, D, and E. And notice in this slide, the notes are going higher or up. Here are the same notes going down. So we have E, D, C, B, and A. And so this time it still is A minor, but we're starting on 5 and we're letting the notes go down. And so you might practice that, both going up to get familiar with the position, and then also just imagine it going down as well. And here's the way that would look again. Up, and then of course down. Now, let's do something else. Let's add a sharp here for a more exotic sound. And we call this the raised fourth. When the fourth note in the position has been raised, it creates a little more exotic sound. Listen. And that's the difference between a regular fourth and a raised fourth. And notice a little more dramatic or exotic treatment of that A minor position. Now we want to take a look at that. If we look at our notes here, we're going to start with our E. And the rhythm is very straightforward. Notice you have quarter notes, a pair of eighth notes, and a dotted half note, and the occasional quarter rest. So you really must count using these 5 notes. Let's take a look at it with our counting. We want to go, and notice the C means 4/4 time. That means common time. So we're going to count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. And if you look down to the third phrase, notice the notes are simply identical. And so if you've practiced the first line, you really don't need to practice the third line, but just so you know that. Now, let's take a look a little bit at our second phrase. That's our second line. Here it is. The only snag comes in measure 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And notice how there is a note that goes down below the A. The A had the two ledger lines. And so we're going to have to take, from our position A minor, we're going to have to cross over a half step with finger 2 to catch that note, which is G sharp. There's a little drill at the top of the page that goes A, down a half step, G sharp, A, B, C, and down a skip to A. And that repeats. Notice again, A, G sharp, A, B, C, down a skip or a third to A. Now, the only difference here is that instead of quarter notes in the actual music, that pattern is now written in eighth notes. So you will double the speed because the note values have been doubled from quarter notes to eighth notes, and it will now sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and as opposed to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and so forth. It'll be a little faster. Now, let's look at, so we want to make sure that we have those notes down. And of course, the occasional pair of eighth notes we can also see here, as we just saw here and there. If we go down and look at line 4, you will notice that, again, line 4 is practically identical to line 2, and you can see it there. Same, same, same. Just here on measure 15 and 16, a little bit different than 7 and 8. Notice the eighth notes, now the E is a quarter note. These changed right away. This stays the same, but they go right down to the A. So the difference here is 1 and 2 and 3 and it turns up a step at the end of the second phrase with a rest, but the end of line 4 continues 1 and 2 and 3 and straight down to 3, 4. And you will notice the note with the double ledger line is the A, right in the middle of the keyboard. Now, so that is the right hand, and you want to master that with the notes, again, understanding what notes they are, and then of course with the counting as well. Now, let's take a look at the left hand. The left hand position is drawn from the space notes of the bass clef, and we can take a look at these and see. Here are the space notes of the bass clef, and you will recognize them as being between the lines, and so we have line 1 here, line 2, line 3, and line 4, and these are squarely between the spaces. The letter names for these notes would be A, C, E, and G. And you can recognize these or remember these space notes as saying something like all cows eat grass or all cars eat gas. Let's find them on the piano itself. So if my middle C is right where my red pen is, my marker, I'm going to count 2 A's down. Start A, C up a skip, E up a skip, and G up a skip. Of course, when the notes go from a space to a space, we know they're skipping the line. So these represent all thirds or all skips from space to space. Let's look again. So we have A, C, E, and G, and those are by name. Now, we want to extract just the A and the C. Let's take a look at that. So here we have just the A and the E here with 1 and 5. This is a fifth interval, and you notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So by itself, the fifth interval should look like this, with 5 and 1. Now, the very next interval you're going to want to get is a sixth interval because the E just went up a step to F. And if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we now have a sixth, and you will need to stretch your thumb up from E to 1 on F. Let's take a look at how that looks as well. So we have A and E, and now we want to bring your thumb up to A and F, kind of like that. And you want to practice kind of going back and forth, always letting your thumb cover both the E and the F. This is the way the two intervals look next to each other. And you'll notice one is the fifth, and then one is the sixth here. And it says move your thumb up from E to F, but the fingering remains the same, 1 and 5 and 1 and 5. So we want to practice going back and forth just like that. Now, if we take a look at the music, let's see if we can find the intervals. So here we are. We've got a fifth and a sixth, 2 fifths. You're just glancing through a fifth and a sixth, 3 fifths in a row. Here's a sixth interval, the same, 2 fifths. And that's how it goes. Now, we want to make sure that we can cover these intervals with counting because many of them are separated by rests. Notice the quarter rest on beats 1 and 3. Here 1 and 4, 1 and 3, only on 1. So we definitely have to keep track of when to play these intervals by watching what beat they go on. So let's see if we can count through. We'd go 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to lift 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 2. Lift your hand. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So all we're doing is we're moving through the score, catching our fifth and our sixth, and we're counting to make sure we play them on the correct beats. If you compare down to the third and fourth phrases or lines, you'll notice it's almost identical. So you just want to cover that the same way. Now, we, just like the right hand had one tricky little spot where it had to cross over on those eighth notes. So the left hand has one little challenging spot as well. Let's look at measures 7 and 8. So here we are, measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Notice in the measure before, the left hand is playing a low A and E right here. But when you go to measure 7, suddenly the fingering asks for 3 on E. And it was with 1. So we're going to have, this requires a hand shift. So that the left hand begins with 1 on E, but it has to change to 3. And you're going to want to physically move your thumb on E to 3 on E. Now, why is that? It's so the left hand can cover the next notes that follow that continue to move up a step. So we need to have fingers available for those notes that continue going up a step. If we start with 1 and 5, we change to 3 on E. Guess what? Up a step with a sharp, F sharp, up a step with a sharp, G sharp, and back down to the E 3 times in a row with staccato dots, which means separation. So the reason for the shift is so we can lift our hand up a little bit higher to cover those notes that continue to go up from that E, the top note of the fifth. All right. If we come down to the last line, we can find the same hand shift required in measure 15. So we had A and E with 1 and 5. This time they want us to put finger 2 on the E. Now, why is that? Because you only have one note going up a second. There it is. So you only need one finger available to catch it. And you want to just practice jumping from A and E to 2 on E, A and E to 2 on E, many, many times. When you return to the low A and E at the very end of music, just make sure that you wait for the half rest. So don't rush that. Make sure you count 2. This is the way it would sound. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shift to 2 on E, 2, F, up a half step. 1, 2, A and E. And the long horizontal line means pedal, so you can simply put your foot on the pedal. Now, that's sort of the way it goes. The tricky thing for the left hand is that hand shift in measure 7 and 8, and then 15 and 16, so you will want to drill that. Let's put it all together. Here it is. From the beginning, March Slav. Remember to count 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Lift for the rest, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, 3, and right hand rest, 1, and 2, and 3. Crossing 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Shift. 2 and 3, and they lift 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 2 and 3 and 4 and crossing, shift to 2 on E, 1, count to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and there you go. There's your Russian army marching into war to help little Serbia. March Slav is a challenging piece. It requires good coordination between the hands and a good sense of counting. Sometimes one hand has to lift for a rest and the other hand is playing. So you have to kind of keep tabs on both hands. Be sure to master your hands separately before you put them together. If you can become comfortable playing this piece, you will be ready to move forward with piano study for the next semester. Udachi tovarish. In Russian, good luck everyone.